My husband threw divorce papers at me while I sat in my wheelchair, called me a burden, said he found someone who could keep up with him. 3 months later, I pulled up to his wedding in a Rolls-Royce Phantom. You should have seen his face when he realized who I really was. Before we dive into this story, do me a favor. Hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications because the twist in this story? You're not going to see it coming. Drop a comment right now telling me, have you ever been underestimated? Because that's exactly what happened to me. Now let me tell you how I made my ex-husband regret the biggest mistake of his life. 6 years. That's how long I thought I had built something real with Terrence Monroe. I'm India, by the way. India Monroe. Well, that used to be my name. I was 34, working as an accountant at a firm in Atlanta, living what I thought was my dream life. Terrence was a sales director, always sharp in his suits, always knew how to make me laugh. We had the kind of marriage people envied, you know? Sunday dinners at his mama's house, date nights every Friday, talking about babies and growing old together. I remember thinking I was the luckiest woman alive. That was before the accident changed everything. It was our anniversary, October 15th. We'd gone to this beautiful restaurant downtown, the kind with candlelight and live jazz. Terrence had surprised me with a bracelet I'd been eyeing for months. We were driving home, rain pouring down like the sky was crying, and I remember laughing at something he said. Then I remember headlights, bright, blinding headlights coming straight at us. Then, nothing. I woke up 3 days later in a hospital bed with tubes coming out of my arms and doctors standing over me with those careful faces they make when they're about to destroy your world. Spinal cord injury, they said. Thoracic level, paraplegia, all these medical words that basically meant one thing. I wasn't going to walk again. I was 34 years old, and just like that, my life was divided into before and after. Terrence was there when I woke up. He held my hand, kissed my forehead, told me we'd figure it out together. In sickness and in health, baby, he whispered. I meant those vows. And I believed him. God, I really believed him. Those first few weeks in the hospital, he visited every day, brought me flowers, helped me with physical therapy, talked about how we'd modify the house. I thought we were going to make it through this. I thought our love was stronger than this. But then I came home, and reality hit different. Our house had stairs everywhere. The bathroom wasn't accessible. The bedroom was upstairs. Suddenly, everything that used to be simple became this huge production. Terrence had to carry me up the stairs, had to help me with things I used to do without thinking. And I could see it in his eyes, that shift, that moment when love started turning into obligation, when a husband started becoming a caretaker. The complaints started small. This ramp is going to cost how much? Then they got bigger. India, I can't keep leaving work early for your appointments. Then they got cruel. I'm exhausted. I didn't sign up for this. His mother didn't help either, always calling with her opinions. My son deserves a wife who can give him children, who can stand beside him at events. Like my wheelchair made me less than human. 6 months after the accident, I found him on Instagram with another woman. Her name was Shanice, and she was everything I wasn't anymore. She was a fitness influencer, always posting videos of herself running, doing yoga, showing off her perfect body. The comments on their photos killed me. Beautiful couple. You two are goals. And when I scrolled back, I realized the photos started appearing 7 months ago, 1 month before my accident. He'd been cheating on me before I ever got hurt. The wheelchair just gave him an excuse to stop hiding it. When I confronted him, he didn't even try to deny it. We were sitting at the kitchen table, and I showed him the photos on my phone. He just looked at me with these cold eyes I'd never seen before and said, I need someone whole, India. I need a partner, not a patient. Those words cut deeper than any surgery I'd been through. I sat there in my wheelchair, crying, and he just stood up and walked away. Walked away. Something I couldn't do anymore. 2 weeks later, he came home with a lawyer, just walked right in like it was any other Tuesday, threw a stack of papers on my lap and said, sign it. I'm not spending my life as a caretaker. You can't even take care of yourself. I'll never forget the sound of those papers hitting my legs I couldn't even feel. He wanted the house, the car, everything. Said he'd earned it, that I couldn't maintain it anyway. Shanice and I are getting married in 3 months, he told me. You need to move on. My sister Nicole helped me move into a tiny accessible apartment across town. It was all I could afford with what little savings I had left after legal fees. Terrence took everything. The furniture, our wedding gifts, money from our joint account. His lawyer was better than mine, and honestly, I was too broken to fight. I spent weeks in that apartment, eating ramen noodles, crying myself to sleep, wondering how my life had fallen apart so completely. The girl who used to wake up excited about life now couldn't find a reason to get out of bed. I was sitting at my kitchen table one random Tuesday afternoon, staring at the final divorce papers, pen in my hand, ready to sign away the last piece of my old life when my phone rang. Unknown number, international area code. I almost didn't answer, but something told me to pick up. Is this India Heights? The voice asked. Heights was my maiden name, the name I hadn't used in 6 years. This is Richard Whitmore from Whitmore and Associates in London. We've been trying to locate you for 3 months regarding your grandmother, Beverly Heights. I barely remembered my grandmother. She'd cut off contact with my mother years before I was born, some family drama I never fully understood. Ms. Heights, I'm calling to inform you that your grandmother passed away, and you are named as the sole beneficiary of her estate. I figured maybe she'd left me a few $1,000s, enough to get back on my feet. The estate is valued at approximately $5.2 billion, he continued. I thought I'd heard him wrong. I made him repeat it 3 times. 5.2 billion, with a B. My grandmother had been the CEO of Heights Global Enterprises, an international company with real estate, investments, and businesses across 4 continents, and she'd left everything to me, the granddaughter she'd never met. 2 weeks later, I was sitting in a conference room in London, listening to lawyers explain my new reality. Properties in New York, London, Dubai, and Los Angeles, stock portfolios that made my head spin, companies I now owned. But the part that broke me was learning about Beverly herself. She'd been in a wheelchair for the last 20 years of her life after a stroke, and she'd built most of her empire after that stroke. She'd left me letters, dozens of them, written over the years to a granddaughter she'd hoped to meet one day. Never let them define your worth by what your body can or cannot do, one letter read. Your power is in your mind, your heart, your refusal to be made small. I built kingdoms from a wheelchair. So can you. It was like she knew exactly what I'd need to hear. I came back to Atlanta, a different woman. Not just because of the money, though, let's be real. $5 billion changes things. But because I finally understood what Beverly was trying to tell me. I moved into a penthouse in Buckhead, the whole place custom designed for accessibility. I hired an assistant named Angela, got the best physical therapists money could buy, and started learning how to run the companies I now owned. I showed up to board meetings in designer suits, rolled into negotiations with confidence I'd forgotten I had, and slowly, I started to feel like myself again. Better than myself. Stronger. 3 months after my life changed, Angela walked into my office holding an envelope. This came to your old address, she said. The post office forwarded it. It was a wedding invitation. Thick, expensive cardstock. Terrence Monroe and Shanice Williams request the honor of your presence. 4 Seasons Atlanta. The same venue where Terrence and I had talked about renewing our vows someday. I should have thrown it away. Should have moved on like everyone kept telling me to. But when I looked at that invitation, all I could think about was Terrence throwing those divorce papers at me, telling me I couldn't take care of myself, walking away while I cried. And I thought about Beverly's letters, about refusing to be made small. Angela, I said, clear my schedule for Saturday. I'm going to a wedding. I had my stylist design a custom black gown that fit perfectly over my wheelchair, got my hair done, makeup flawless, and wore the diamond necklace that had belonged to Beverly, worth more than Terrence made in 5 years. I ordered a Rolls-Royce Phantom for the day, black with cream interior. When I looked at myself in the mirror that morning, I didn't see the broken woman Terrence had left behind. I saw a queen. I arrived at the Four Seasons 30 minutes after the ceremony started, intentionally late. The valet's eyes went wide when the rolls pulled up. I rolled out in my custom chair, tipped them 100 each, and made my way inside. The ceremony was happening in the garden, and I could hear the officiant talking as I approached. Every head turned when I rolled down the aisle. The whispers started immediately, spreading like wildfire through the guests. I found a seat in the back and watched Terrence standing at the altar. He looked good in his tuxedo, I'll give him that, but then his eyes found mine, and the color drained from his face. His mouth literally fell open. His mother, sitting in the front row, gasped so loud people turned to look at her. Shanice, beautiful in her white dress, had no idea who I was yet, but she knew something was wrong by the way Terrence was staring at me. The ceremony finished, awkward and rushed. At the reception, I sat at a table in the corner, sipping champagne, watching people whisper and point. Terrence's friends kept looking over, trying to figure out if it was really me. Finally, he couldn't take it anymore. He walked over and I could see his hands shaking. "India?" he said, like he was seeing a ghost. "What are you doing here?" I smiled, calm as could be. "Congratulations on your special day, Terrence." Beautiful ceremony. His eyes kept darting to my jewelry, my dress, the way I carried myself. Where did you get—" He couldn't even finish his sentences. "Oh, this." I touched my necklace. "My grandmother left me a little something when she passed. Beverly Heights. You might have heard of her? CEO of Heights Global Enterprises?" I watched him do the math in his head, watched the exact moment he realized what he'd thrown away. Shanice came storming over in her wedding dress, all territorial. "Terrence, who is this woman?" I extended my hand. "India Heights. I'm his first wife, the one he threw away like garbage when I got hurt. Pleased to meet you." The panic on Terrence's face was beautiful. "India, please, don't do this here. Let's talk outside." But other guests had already started Googling my name on their phones. "Oh my God, she's worth billions," someone said too loud. "He dumped a billionaire?" His best man looked at him like he was the dumbest man alive. His mother literally fainted, had to be helped to a chair. Terrence followed me outside, desperate. "India, I made a terrible mistake, the worst mistake of my life. We can work this out. Shanice doesn't mean anything. It was always you. You and I, we belong together. Just give me another chance." He was actually crying. This man who'd called me a burden, who'd told me I couldn't take care of myself. "I never stopped loving you," he said. I looked at him for a long moment, this man I'd built 6 years of my life around. "You showed me who you were when I needed you most, Terrence. When I was broken and scared and needed my husband, you handed me divorce papers and walked away. You didn't leave me because I was in a wheelchair. You left because you're the kind of man who only loves people when it's convenient, when it makes you look good. The wheelchair just gave you permission to show your true self." "But I was wrong," he begged. "I'll leave Shanice right now. We can start over. I'll be better. I promise." I shook my head. "I don't want you to be better. I don't want you at all. I didn't come here for revenge, Terrence. I came here to remind myself of who I am, to see you and feel absolutely nothing. And you know what? It worked." I rolled toward my car and he grabbed my wheelchair. "Big mistake." "Let go of me," I said quietly. He did, stumbling back. "Enjoy your wedding, Terrence." "Enjoy your life. I know I'll enjoy mine." The valet brought the rolls around, and I left him standing there in his tuxedo, watching me drive away from him one last time. Here's what I learned through all of this. My grandmother was right. They'll try to define you by what you can't do, by what you've lost, by what makes you different. But your worth isn't in your legs or your ability to walk. It's in how you rise after they try to break you. It's in refusing to let their limitations become your limitations. Terrence thought he was leaving behind a burden. What he actually left behind was a woman who was about to become unstoppable. I heard later that he married Shanice that day, but their relationship fell apart within 6 months. Apparently, he couldn't stop talking about what he'd lost. Not me, but the money. The life he could have had. But see, that's the thing he never understood. The money didn't make me valuable. I was always valuable. I just needed to remember it. And sometimes the people who are supposed to love us are the ones who make us forget. So that's my story. Terrence married Shanice that day, but according to my sources, he can't stop talking about what he lost. But here's the thing. I didn't show up to win him back. I showed up to remind myself of who I am. Now I want to hear from you. Have you ever proved someone wrong who underestimated you? Drop that story in the comments. And if this story spoke to you, smash that like button, share this video with someone who needs to hear it, and subscribe because I've got more stories that'll have your jaw on the floor. Remember, your worth isn't determined by who stays. It's determined by who you decide to be. Until next time, stay blessed and stay unbothered.
A black car stops before a glass-walled mansion on the edge of Seoul. The rain is soft, but the sky feels heavy, as if warning Amara of what waits inside. Amara, a black Nigerian woman in her mid-20s with calm brown eyes and simple long braids, steps out carrying one small suitcase. She looks up at the tall, silver gates guarded by armed men. Inside, marble floors stretch endlessly. The air smells of money, gun oil, and loneliness. "Miss Amara, this way," a butler says coldly. She follows him through the hall where portraits of one man dominate every wall, Dae-hyun, the new mafia heir of Seoul. When the elevator doors open, she meets him. Dae-hyun stands by the window in a black suit, his sharp jawline cutting through the city lights. A Korean man in his mid-20s, eyes dark and unreadable, like a storm just before it breaks. "You're the new nanny?" His voice is calm, too calm. "Yes, sir." "Amara Daniels," she replies, straight-backed but nervous. He studies her like a man choosing a target. "My daughter doesn't need affection. She needs discipline. Do your job, and you'll be fine. Break my rules, you're out." Amara doesn't flinch. "Children don't grow with rules, sir. They grow with love." His jaw tightens. "Then this house will teach you otherwise." Upstairs, she finds Harin, a tiny girl with long black hair and a soft voice. She's sitting alone in her room filled with toys she never touches. "Hello, Harin. I'm your new nanny." No response. Only the faint sound of a piano from downstairs. Amara kneels beside her. "You don't have to talk. But you can draw if you like." She hands her a sketchbook. Slowly, the little girl draws two stick figures, one tall, one small, holding hands. It's the first time anyone has seen her smile. From the doorway, Dae-hyun watches. He says nothing, only turns away. That night, the dining table is silent. Dae-hyun sits at the head, Harin pokes at her food, Amara stands quietly behind. "Eat," he orders. Harin looks down. Amara steps forward, her voice soft. "She's not hungry." "Maybe." He cuts her off sharply. "You don't speak unless spoken to." Amara clenches her fists. "Then maybe you should try listening for once." The air freezes. The guards exchange looks. Dae-hyun's eyes narrow, but instead of shouting, he stands abruptly and leaves the table. Harin whispers, "Thank you," so quietly it almost breaks her heart. Amara can't sleep. She walks into the garden where the koi pond glows under the moon. She hears a door open behind her. It's Dae-hyun, shirt sleeves rolled up, tie loose, a glass of whiskey in hand. He doesn't look like a monster now, just a man drowning in silence. "Why do you care so much?" he asks quietly. "Because someone has to," she answers. He stares at her for a long moment, then turns away. "You'll regret staying here, Miss Amara." "I already do," she whispers as he disappears into the shadows. The next morning began like every other day in the mansion, cold, quiet, and predictable. The kind of silence that made even the maids whisper. But this time, there was a difference. Amara had decided she wouldn't let Daehyun's temper control the air everyone breathed. She walked into the dining room, carrying a tray of breakfast. Daehyun sat at the far end of the long marble table, dressed in a crisp black suit, scrolling through his phone with that same emotionless face he wore like armor. "Good morning," Amara greeted politely. He didn't look up. "You're late." "I'm not," she replied calmly, placing a plate in front of him. "You're just early." That made him pause. His eyes lifted, sharp and dark, meeting hers for the first time that morning. "Watch your tone, Miss Amara." "I'm only saying the truth," she said lightly. "And you should eat before your coffee gets cold." For a long moment, he said nothing. Then, he let out a quiet sigh and picked up the cup. "You talk too much." "And you frown too much," she said under her breath, turning away before he could respond. Harin giggled softly from her seat, covering her mouth. Daehyun shot his daughter a look, but she only smiled brighter, the kind of smile that had been missing for far too long. That small sound, his daughter's laughter, made something flicker in his chest. He quickly looked away, but Amara saw it. And she smiled too. Later that day, Amara took Harin out into the garden. The air was warm, and the little girl's laughter filled the space like sunlight breaking through clouds. They blew soap bubbles, danced in the grass, and for the first time in weeks, Harin looked like a child instead of a ghost in a mansion. From the balcony above, Daehyun watched them, unseen, hands in his pockets, a storm brewing behind his calm expression. When Amara knelt to tie Harin's shoelaces, Daehyun's gaze softened without his permission. But the softness scared him. It made him angry at himself for feeling. Later that evening, he called her to his office. "You are forgetting your place," he said coldly, sitting behind his massive desk. "My place?" Amara repeated, arms crossed. "Is it wrong to make your daughter happy?" "You are too familiar." "You talk back." "You make her," he stopped mid-sentence, jaw tight. "Make her what?" "Laugh?" Daehyun stood up so suddenly that his chair scraped against the floor. "Don't challenge me, Miss Amara. You work here because I allow it." "And you think that scares me?" she asked, stepping closer. Her voice was low but steady. "You can fire me right now if it makes you feel powerful, but you and I both know you won't. Because Harin needs me." The air between them went still, heavy, charged, and alive. His sharp jaw tightened, his breathing deepened, and for the first time, he didn't have an answer. Amara turned and left the room, her heart racing, not from fear, but from something she couldn't name. That night, Daehyun found himself standing outside Harin's bedroom door. He could hear Amara's soft voice reading a story inside. "And the little girl wasn't afraid anymore," Amara said gently. "Because she finally knew that even the coldest hearts could warm again." Daehyun's hand froze on the doorknob. When the story ended, he watched Amara tuck Harin into bed. Her braids shimmered faintly under the lamp. There was a tenderness in her movements that he hadn't seen in years, maybe ever. He didn't move until she stepped out. Their eyes met in the hallway, her brown skin glowing softly in the dim light, his sharp features shadowed but uncertain. Neither spoke. But something wordless passed between them, a truce, maybe, or a promise neither dared to admit. The next evening, Amara prepared dinner as usual, but this time, she didn't expect him to join. He never did. When Harin asked if her father would come, Amara smiled sadly. "He's busy, baby. But maybe someday." And then, to her shock, she heard footsteps. Daehyun walked in, silent as always, but instead of going to his study, he sat down at the table. Harin's face lit up instantly. "Daddy." Amara froze mid-step. "Would you like me to bring you a plate?" she asked carefully. He nodded once. "I'm already here, aren't I?" Dinner was quiet at first, until Harin started talking about her day. She told him how Amara helped her draw, how she made funny faces to make her laugh. And for the first time, Daehyun smiled. It wasn't full, but it was real. Amara saw it and looked away before her heart could betray her. The night ended with Harin fast asleep and Amara cleaning up the dishes. When she turned, she found Daehyun standing behind her, watching quietly. "You're changing her," he said softly. Amara blinked. "I'm just doing my job." His eyes softened. "No. You're doing more than that." It was the closest thing to gratitude she would ever hear from him. And that night, for the first time since she arrived, Amara dreamed of him. The mansion that had once been filled with quiet tension was changing. For the first time in years, laughter had returned, soft, shy, uncertain, but real. Harin's laughter. Amara had brought life back into a house built on shadows. Daehyun found himself staying home more often, sitting at the table he had once avoided, watching as Amara brushed Harin's hair or hummed softly while serving dinner. It made something ache inside him, something he had long buried under control and cruelty. But peace, in his world, never lasted long. Amara tucked Harin into bed that night. The little girl clung to her tightly. "Will you still be here tomorrow?" she whispered. Amara smiled gently. "Of course. I'll always be here, Harin." Outside, Daehyun stood in the hallway, listening. His sharp jawline tightened. He didn't know why the words made his heart beat faster. He wasn't used to promises. They always broke. The next morning was chaos. Harin's room was empty. The window slightly open. A small pink slipper lay abandoned near the bed. Daehyun's men searched the grounds. The security footage showed nothing clear, just shadows, and the faint shape of someone who looked like Amara. His blood turned cold. He slammed his fist against the marble table. "Get her here," he ordered his guards, voice low, dangerous. Now. When Amara walked into the grand hall, she knew something was wrong. The house felt colder. Daehyun stood at the center, dressed in black, eyes filled with fury and heartbreak. His sharp jawline was set in stone. He threw a photo across the floor, a blurry frame showing someone near Harin's window. "Explain this," his voice cut through the air. Amara bent down, tears in her eyes. "That's not me, Daehyun. I would never." "Lies." His tone cracked like thunder. "You used my daughter to get close to me. Was this your plan all along? To sell her out to my enemies?" Her heart shattered. She tried to step closer, but his guards blocked her way. "Daehyun, please. You know me. You've seen me with her." But he didn't listen. His walls were back up, higher than ever. "Pack your things," he said coldly. "You're fired. And if you ever come near my daughter again, you'll regret it." Amara left the mansion that night under the heavy rain. Her simple clothes were soaked, her heart breaking with every step. Back in his office, Daehyun sat alone, a drink untouched beside him. The city lights reflected in his eyes, but he saw nothing. Harin's laughter echoed in his mind. So did Amara's voice, her kindness, her courage. He didn't want to believe she could betray him. But every piece of evidence pointed at her. Days passed. Weeks. The mansion grew cold again. Harin was found, safe but frightened. The kidnappers had demanded ransom but disappeared before they could be caught. Harin kept asking for Amara, crying through the nights. Daehyun never answered. He simply stood outside her room in silence, guilt growing like a storm he couldn't escape. Late one night, one of his men entered his office. "Sir," he said quietly, "we found the person who took the girl." It wasn't the nanny. It was one of the rival clans. She tried to stop them. The glass in Daehyun's hand shattered. His heart stopped. He remembered the look in Amara's eyes that night, the pain, the disbelief. She had been telling the truth. He left the office and drove through the rain, searching for her. But when he reached her small apartment, it was empty. A single note sat on the table. "I forgive you, Daehyun. Tell Harin I love her. Months later, Daehyun sat in Harin's room. His sharp jawline looked softer now, his eyes tired, hollowed by regret. Harin was drawing with crayons, a family of 3 holding hands. When she showed him the drawing, he smiled faintly. Who's this? He asked, pointing at the woman. That's Miss Amara, Harin said innocently. She said she'll come back when the rain stops. Daehyun looked out the window. Rain was falling again. He whispered quietly, voice trembling. I'll wait.
Security lights flashed white across the ceiling, and the sound of feet thundered through the corridor before she even understood what was happening. Sunghyun's hand closed around her wrist and pulled fast and sure, turning her into the shadowed alcove between the stairs and the wall. The air smelled like cedar and something sharp from the cleaning fluid the staff used on the marble. Somewhere down the hall a door slammed, the echo running through the bones of the house. Look at me, he said. She did. His face was close, the line of his jaw taut, eyes steady in the strobing light. She could hear men shouting into radios, one voice clipped and frightened, another lower and calm. His. Always calm. The house felt like it was holding its breath. He cupped her jaw with one palm and kissed her. It was not gentle. It was heat and command, and the taste of his breath, as if he meant to brand the moment into the night. She caught the railing with one hand to steady herself, felt the hard press of his chest and the strength there. The way he bent toward her like he had decided that this was the safest place in the world for the length of that kiss. When he pulled back, his mouth hovered over hers, his voice a low promise. Promise me. Promise me that you'll keep breathing. He pressed a small key on his watch. Somewhere deeper in the house, a steel gate rolled shut. 2 guards appeared at the end of the hall, dark suits, guns drawn, eyes sweeping. He did not look away from her. Go to your shop, commanded Sunghyun. Now, do not stop. I'll end it here. I'm not leaving you, she said, but her voice came out thin, breath catching on fear and the aftertaste of him. You are, he said, and he was not asking. The car is at the side entrance. His eyes flicked to the guards. Go with her now. Another bang sounded closer to them. She flinched. He stepped out of the alcove and took the impact of the sound with his shoulders, as if his body could absorb the noise for her. Then he was gone, moving down the corridor like a blade, the guards closing in on Ao with quick gestures and quick words. She looked once over her shoulder. He did not look back. They hustled her through a service passage she had not noticed before, past shelves of linen and a row of quiet refrigerators and a clock that ticked too loudly. Outside, the air was cool and smelled faintly of night rain. A black SUV idled by the hedge. One guard slid in front, the other opened the back door and guided her in with a hand that was firm and respectful, like he had practiced the move 1,000 times. The city started moving past them. Her heart would not slow. She pressed her palm to her mouth and tasted cedar and him and the metallic tang of fear. The driver spoke into a pinned mic, calm phrases that meant little to her and everything to whoever was listening. The other guard sat beside her, a silent wall. Her phone vibrated once. The screen lit the inside of the car, and there was a message from a number. The message had a photo that showed her shop with its glass blown out onto the sidewalk, mannequins fallen like bodies on a stage. Another photo followed. It was of a little girl outside a school gate in Lagos. Her hair in tight twists, her backpack slung too low like she always wore it, mouth pinched the way she did when she was trying not to show worry. This was her little sister, Amara. Then at the bottom of the chat was a message. Bring the phone from your gala gift bag. Come alone. 22:30. Riverside Hotel rooftop. No police. Ao's breath stalled. She could hear only the tires on wet road for a second, that soft hiss that made everything else feel distant. The guard beside her leaned in to read. He moved his hand away like the phone had burned him. Who is Amara? He asked, voice careful. My sister, she said, and her voice shook. She's 15. Just a child. The guard looked at the driver in the mirror. The driver nodded once and spoke another quiet line into his mic. Ao kept staring at the picture of Amara. The uniform shirt was clean and pressed. The light in Lagos looked different even through a bad camera, harsher at the edges. Amara's mouth was set like their mother's when she was trying to carry more than she should. Another message came through. If you bring anyone, Amara gets hurt. Her thumb hovered over the keyboard. She wanted to type, to plead, to promise anything to make the phone stop talking. Her hand would not move. Who's sending you these messages? The driver asked. I know who she is, Ao said, and forced herself to breathe. Her name is Yejin. She was my connector into the industry. She invited me to the gala. She introduced me to people who said yes quickly and said it with a smile. She said she wanted to see my work on bigger stages. She sent me lists and told me which photographers took the right angles for this city. She told me which colors sell in winter. She told me to trust her. She closed her eyes and saw the DM from months ago, a blue check mark and a message that started with love. Love your eye, love your courage, then moved to logistics. Yejin wore clothes that made editors lean forward. Yejin laughed with designers who only laughed inward. Yejin took Ao by the elbow at a show once and whispered which buyer to greet first, and when to leave a conversation with grace. Ao had thought it luck to have someone like that appear and say she could help. Is Yejin the one behind all of this? Thought Ao. What's this about a phone? Asked the guard. She brought a gift bag to the gala for me, Ao said. She said it was my welcome bonus. I put it under the counter when I got to the shop the next morning. The driver's eyes glanced up in the mirror. And you think this phone is inside? It is inside, she said, because the shape of the demand felt like certainty. And she wants me to bring it. The guard beside her angled his body toward her, not crowding, just present. Whatever it is, you cannot go alone. We have orders from the boss to protect you. She will know if I bring you. My sister's life is at stake here. Ao screamed and hated how raw her voice sounded. The driver said nothing. The SUV changed lanes like a sleek fish cutting through water. Inside, the shop was a mess in the particular way only anger makes. Not a search, not a careful theft, just destruction for the story it tells. Racks tilted. A dress she had loved working on lay in a dark puddle of water, the fabric heavy and sad. She swallowed and thought of Amara again, because if she thought about the dress she would sit down on the floor and cry, and she did not have time for that. She crouched behind the counter. The gift bag was there, half hidden by a stack of lookbooks. And inside was the phone. Slim. Black. Screen asleep. No logos. The kind of phone that looks like everything and nothing, like it could hold a life or be a dead thing. The phone vibrated with a call, and she answered. Very good, Ao. Now bring it to me, Yejin said. The voice of her blackmailer did not rise. It floated, almost bored, the way television hosts speak when they have said the same thing 1,000 times. What's on it? Does this have something to do with Songhyun? Asked Ao with a shaky voice. You damned fool. Do you realize your sister's life is at stake right now? Boomed Yejin. I'm waiting. 10:30. Come alone. If not, your sister goes for a ride you do not want her to take. Let me speak to her, Ao begged. No, Yejin said, and sounded genuinely amused. You will know she is safe when I say she is safe. That is how this works. Why me? Ao said before she could stop herself. You could have picked anyone. Anyone could have been there that night. Why are you doing this to me? There was a pause that felt like a smile. Because he looked at you, Yejin said. And because you looked back. The line clicked dead. Ao stared at the black screen a second longer, and then placed the phone on the counter like you put down a blade you are not finished with. When she returned to the SUV, the driver had a tablet open, cables snaking to a small device that blinked slow blue. The tablet lit with a simple graph and 3 small lines that moved like fish under a shallow surface. The driver spoke to someone through his mic in that calm voice that made you think of someone counting cards. A red dot appeared and held steady. With a serious look, the driver and 2 guards snapped their necks at her while raising the tablet. We found 3 transfers touching your business account in the last 60 days. All from Swiss accounts. The driver said, and this time he watched her face when he said it. I have no idea what you're talking about, she said. I have 3 people and a cat, and the cat is the only one who naps on duty. We barely keep up. The bank calls me when I sneeze. There are millions in untraced funds in these accounts, he started with a lingering pause. I'll just come right out and say it. How much were you paid to get close to the boss? Excuse me? The guards immediately pointed their weapons at her. Ao looked down at the phone in her hands. She thought of the gift bag under the counter and the way the tissue had been folded clean. She thought of the wine that had stained Songhyun, the angle perfect, the timing perfect, the way the world had turned on that small red stain. She set me up, Ao said, and said it without heat because anger would make her say too much. She wanted him to move when she tugged. She made me the string. The atmosphere in the room changed as the guards stood rigid, their eyes narrowing on Ao. Her heart skipped a beat as one of them stepped forward. His voice was low, accusing. "You've betrayed Sung-hyun, haven't you?" Ao felt a cold stab in her chest. Her eyes darted to Sung-hyun, but he stood silently in the doorway, his expression unreadable. Her blood ran cold. She never expected him to doubt her, especially now, when everything had seemed so clear. "I've been trying to protect us," she said, her voice a tremor. "I've always been honest with you. This is not me." The room was thick with tension, the silence cutting deeper than the accusation. The guard pressed on, his words sharp. "Then why were you communicating with them?" He gestured toward the phone, and Ao flinched. It felt like her entire world had been flipped upside down in a single moment. Sung-hyun finally spoke, his voice softer than it had been before. "Explain yourself." Ao clenched her fists. There was a crack in her resolve, but she would not break. "I didn't betray you, Sung-hyun. Yejin used me. She manipulated me from the start. She knew how to get you to move. She knew how to get me to move." There was a flash of something in his eyes, guilt, anger, and something like regret. Ao couldn't read it fully, but it hurt just the same. He didn't respond. He just nodded to the guards. The men turned and left the room, leaving Ao standing in the charged silence. She took a breath and moved towards the door, but her heart was heavy with doubt. Sung-hyun hadn't said he trusted her. He'd only wanted answers. Her world felt unstable, like the floor beneath her might give way. But this was far from over. And Ao knew she had to stay focused, no matter how much her heart ached. Once outside, Ao found herself once again in the cold, sterile atmosphere of Sung-hyun's mansion. The guards had stopped speaking, but the weight of their silence pressed on her shoulders. She could feel their eyes on her, heavy, like they expected her to crack. Sung-hyun motioned for her to sit. His eyes were a storm of thoughts, conflicting. "Tell me everything, Ao," he said quietly. "Tell me how Yejin has you tangled in this mess." The words burned in her throat. She hesitated, her eyes flicking to the window where the city stretched out before them, distant, cold, and indifferent. She didn't want to do this, but she couldn't afford to lie. "I trusted her. I trusted Yejin because she was there." Ao's voice faltered. "She promised me exposure, a way into the world that could change everything for me. But all she wanted was to use me against you." She set the wine spill up, Sung-hyun. She filmed it so she could leverage the footage against us both. She knew how to play the game. Sung-hyun didn't say anything. He simply stared at her, his eyes betraying nothing, his face cold as steel. But she saw the sharpness in his gaze, the sense of betrayal, the loss of control. It was there in every tiny movement. She saw how his jaw tightened. "Why didn't you tell me this sooner?" His voice was calm, almost too calm. Ao could feel the anger simmering beneath, ready to erupt. "I tried," Ao whispered. "I didn't know who to trust. I had no choice but to follow what I thought was the right path." His gaze softened slightly, but only for a moment. "Yejin isn't the only one who has a game to play," he said, stepping toward her. He was close now, too close. "You think you've been used, but it goes both ways." There it was again, the warmth in his voice that never fully reached his eyes. There was tension in every word, a promise and a warning. Ao stepped back. "You don't know what this is like. You don't know what it's like to be played by someone who knows your every weakness, Sung-hyun." His expression shifted, ever so slightly. "You're not the only one who's been played." Her breath caught. "Then how do we end this?" Ao's voice broke, but she wouldn't let him see it. This wasn't just about the fight anymore. It was about her future, the future she still wanted to hold on to, even if it meant walking away. The tension was palpable as Ao entered the Riverside Hotel's rooftop bar. Yejin stood at the far end, a serene smile on her face, as though she had all the time in the world. Her eyes flickered to Ao's phone, sitting neatly on the table between them. "You're on time," Yejin said, her voice dripping with satisfaction. "I appreciate that." Ao set her eyes on Yejin, and she didn't bother with pleasantries. "Where is my sister?" she demanded, her voice sharp and unforgiving. Yejin smiled and nodded to her two men. They stepped aside, revealing the video on Yejin's phone. Amara was standing by the car again. This time, there were no smiles. Only tension. "She's alive," Yejin said, almost casually. "If you do as I say, she'll stay that way." The air between them thickened, but Ao didn't flinch. "I didn't ask for your help," she said, pushing the phone aside and locking eyes with her captor. "I brought what you wanted." Yejin smirked, her gaze cold and calculating. "Very good, Ao. But you're not out of the woods yet." Ao's fingers tightened around the phone. "You set me up, Yejin. You used me from the start. You filmed the spill, you staged the scene, and you thought I'd just walk away. Yejin's lips curled into a smile. It's almost a compliment that you saw through it. Most people don't. But don't get cocky. You think you control the game, but you're just another piece. The wind caught Ao's hair, tugging it back like the city itself was pulling her forward. But she didn't flinch. Instead, she spoke the words that changed everything. I backed up the phone. If I don't send the word by midnight, it's all yours. Every photo, every log. To a reporter who doesn't owe anyone here a damn thing. The tension shifted. Yejin's eyes widened ever so slightly. The game was in Ao's hands now, but Yejin didn't give up easily. Her hand slid to the phone, tapping the screen to watch the time pass. The seconds ticked down as both women stood in that electric silence. Then, in a blur, the first man lunged toward Ao. Sung-hyun was there in a heartbeat, stopping the man with a clean move, a precise hit to his neck. The second man swung at Sung-hyun, but he evaded it effortlessly, pinning the man to the floor. Ao kicked the phone toward him. It slid clean across the table and into his hand. Without hesitation, he hurled it over the edge of the building, sending it into the city's depths. The city swallowed it whole. Do you think I care about the phone? Yejin asked, her voice sharp with annoyance. You care about control, Sung-hyun said, voice low, his hands still raised from the fight. But you're out of moves. Yejin hesitated for a moment, but then, with a sigh, she turned to leave, the game lost. Her men followed in haste, and the tension finally broke. As the sirens outside grew louder, Ao glanced at Sung-hyun, her heart still racing. He looked at her, a quiet understanding passing between them. She had played the game, but now they were free. She wiped her hand across her face, feeling the sweat cool against her skin. It's over, she whispered, more to herself than anyone else. Sung-hyun nodded. For now. But we keep moving. They stood together, side by side, as Ao glanced out across the city. A new chapter had begun, not with fanfare or perfection, but with the promise of something real. The fight was over. But the future? That would always be something they created together.
Zara stood there, breathless, trembling, her heartbeat echoing louder than the thunder outside. Her world spun the moment his lips met hers. Hyun-woo Lee, the man she swore she hated, kissed her like he'd been waiting his whole life to do it. It wasn't soft. It wasn't gentle. It was fire meeting fury. Two broken souls clashing in a war neither of them wanted to end. And then the sound echoed. A sharp, painful slap. Her palm stung. His jaw tightened. Between them hung the taste of rain, anger, and something dangerous. She couldn't tell if it was hate. Or something far worse, want. Hyun-woo didn't move. He just looked at her, not with anger, but with something that terrified her even more. Regret. Outside, thunder rolled again. Inside, silence screamed louder than words. Zara turned away, but the truth was already out there, hidden between that kiss and that slap. A truth that would destroy everything she came to build. A truth that began with one mistake, and would end with a love neither of them could escape. Zara Okoro adjusted her backpack nervously as she stepped onto the bustling Seoul campus. She had dreamed of this scholarship for years, and the reality was both exhilarating and terrifying. Every face seemed unfamiliar, every voice foreign, yet she smiled and tried to blend in. As she hurried down the hall, a man came out of nowhere, tripping over a briefcase. Papers flew in every direction. Without thinking, Zara lunged forward, grabbing a falling folder before it hit the floor. Careful, she exclaimed, handing it back. The man looked up, his expression a mix of surprise and gratitude. He was tall, impeccably dressed, with sharp features that made her heart skip a beat. Thank you, he said, his voice calm, controlled, and just a little intimidating. I'm Hyun-woo Lee. Lee, that sounds familiar, Zara thought, but she shook it off. Probably just another student or teacher. I'm Zara Okoro. Nice to meet you, she said, hiding the sudden flutter in her chest. He studied her briefly, an unreadable expression on his face. You're not a student here, are you? I am. I am, she stammered. Why does he make me feel like I'm under a microscope? Good, he said finally, turning back to gather his papers. You're coming with me. Zara froze. Excuse me? You heard me, Hyun-woo said, his gaze firm. I need someone to help me today. You'll do. Do what? Zara thought, confusion and nerves tangling in her stomach. I barely know him, and now I'm following him. Walking behind Hyun-woo, Zara tried to process the situation. She had never met someone so cold, yet there was an inexplicable magnetism about him. Each step felt charged. You know, she said cautiously, I don't usually follow strangers around. He glanced at her briefly, lips twitching into the faintest smirk. You're not a stranger anymore. You're an intern. An intern? Zara repeated, shocked. I think you have the wrong person. Hyun-woo's gaze hardened slightly. I don't make mistakes. He's serious? Zara thought. This man, he's impossible. She followed anyway, realizing arguing wouldn't help. As they entered a luxurious office building, she took in the marble floors, the massive windows, and the air of power that surrounded him. I didn't sign up for this, she thought, swallowing nervously. And yet, I can't stop looking at him. Hyun-woo handed her a stack of documents. Review these and summarize the key points, he said. I don't have time for mistakes. Zara hesitated, holding the papers. Why am I the one doing this? She wondered. I'm just a scholarship student, not some corporate assistant. I'll try my best, she said, attempting to sound confident. You'd better, he said, his gaze piercing through her like he could see every doubt she had. As she began reading, she noticed a tiny smirk tug at his lips when she fumbled a line. Does he enjoy seeing me struggle? She thought, cheeks warming. Hours passed with Zara summarizing, while Hyun-woo occasionally leaned over her shoulder, silently correcting errors. His proximity made her pulse quicken, and she struggled to focus. Why is he so magnetic? After the documents were complete, Zara stepped onto the balcony to breathe. The city stretched out before her, lights glittering in the late afternoon sun. What just happened today? She thought, exhaling. I helped a stranger, got mistaken for an intern, and now I'm completely out of my depth. Meanwhile, inside the office, Hyun-woo sat back in his chair, watching the skyline. She's bold, smart, and not intimidated by me, he thought, a flicker of something unreadable crossing his face. She's different from anyone I've met. That evening, as Zara returned to her dorm, her mind replayed every interaction. Every glance, every subtle smirk, every word lingered. Why do I feel drawn to him? She wondered. This isn't just a mistake. Something tells me my life is about to change. The next morning, Zara arrived at the towering glass building that now felt both magnificent and intimidating. She had planned to explain the misunderstanding and leave, but something in her wouldn't let her walk away. As she stepped into the elevator, she caught her reflection in the mirror, braids neat, blouse crisp, nerves hidden behind a confident smile. You can do this, she told herself. You've handled worse. When the elevator doors opened, Hyun-woo was already there, standing by the reception desk. His presence filled the room effortlessly, calm, powerful, distant. You're late, he said simply. I wasn't aware I worked here, she replied, crossing her arms. His lips twitched, barely a smile. You do now. This man, he never asks, he just decides, Zara thought, fighting the heat in her cheeks. He gestured toward the office. Come. I have a meeting in 10 minutes. You'll observe. I'm not trained for. Then learn, he interrupted smoothly, walking away. Zara sighed and followed. I should be angry, but why do I feel challenged instead? Inside the conference room, everything felt foreign: glass walls, expensive suits, and voices sharp with strategy. Hyun-woo sat at the head of the table, composed and confident. Zara took notes quietly, stealing glances at him between scribbles. He's like a machine, she thought. Focused, controlled, untouchable. When someone questioned his decision, Hyun-woo's tone cut through the room like glass. If you have time to doubt my methods, he said, you should use it to improve yours. Everyone fell silent. Zara bit back a grin. He's ruthless, and yet, I can't look away. After the meeting, as people dispersed, Hyun-woo approached her. You understood the summary? Yes, she said, holding up her notes. And I corrected one of the figures. The profit margin you mentioned was off by 2%. He paused, clearly not expecting that. Show me. She handed him the notebook, and for the first time, his expression softened, just a little. You're bold, he said. I'm accurate, she replied. There it is again, she thought. That spark between us. It's dangerous, but thrilling. As days passed, whispers filled the office. The new intern, the foreign girl, had caught the CEO's attention. Zara noticed the looks, the half-hidden smirks from other assistants. One woman, Minji, seemed particularly cold. She must be special, Minji said one afternoon, her tone sharp. Not everyone gets personal mentoring from Mr. Lee. Zara smiled politely. Maybe he just appreciates honesty. Minji's eyes narrowed. Or maybe he appreciates something else. Zara walked away before replying, her heart pounding. I can't let this bother me. I didn't come here for gossip. But later that day, when she found Hyun-woo in his office reviewing reports, her frustration spilled out. Do you know what they're saying about me? He looked up slowly. People talk. It means nothing. It means everything when I'm the one they're talking about, she said, voice trembling. You threw me into your world without asking if I belonged here. His eyes softened for a fraction of a second. And do you? The question lingered between them like smoke. She didn't answer, she couldn't. That night, rain poured over the city. Most of the building was empty, but Zara was still at her desk, finishing a report. She rubbed her temples, exhaustion settling in. The soft sound of footsteps broke her focus. Hyun-woo appeared beside her, holding 2 cups of coffee. You're still here, he said quietly. So are you, she replied, surprised. He set a cup in front of her. You did well today. She looked up at him, unsure if she'd heard right. That almost sounded like a compliment. Don't get used to it, he said, but the faintest smile crossed his lips. Silence followed, comfortable yet charged. The sound of rain against the windows filled the space. Zara sipped her coffee, warmth spreading through her chest. I don't understand you, she said softly. You're not supposed to, he replied. She studied his face, the tired lines around his eyes, the weight he carried behind that perfect composure. He looks lonely, she thought. Like someone who forgot what peace feels like. For the first time, she saw the man behind the title, not the CEO, not the perfectionist, but a person who'd built walls too high to climb. Their eyes met again, and for a moment, the world outside disappeared. Then Hyunwoo stood abruptly. Go home, Zara, he said, voice lower now. Before you make me forget who I am. She froze, heart racing. What does that even mean? When she finally left, the rain had stopped, but her pulse hadn't. Something changed tonight, she thought. And I don't know if I'm ready for what comes next. The days that followed were quiet. Too quiet. Zara had grown used to Hyunwoo's steady presence, the way he always seemed to appear at the right moment, how his voice could calm her nerves after a long day. But lately, something felt off. He had become distant. Cold again, like the first time they met. Zara tried to focus on her work, but whispers filled the office hallways. Eyes followed her everywhere she went. Conversations paused when she entered a room. At first, she ignored it, until she walked into the boardroom one morning and saw the newspaper. Her picture was on the front page. The headline read, Foreign intern caught leaking Lee Corporation's confidential data. Her heart froze. The room blurred. She barely heard the gasps or the murmurs. All she could think about was one name. Minju. Minju, Hyunwoo's ex-fiancée. The woman who smiled with her mouth but never her eyes. The one who had always called Zara the charity case behind her back. Zara knew Minju hated her, but she never imagined she would go this far. By the time she stormed out of the building, tears already blurred her vision. She ran into Hyunwoo's office, the newspaper clenched in her shaking hand. I didn't do this, Zara said, her voice trembling. You have to believe me. Hyunwoo's expression was unreadable. He stood by the window, silent for a long time before turning to her. I want to believe you, he said softly, but the evidence points directly at you. The files were sent from your account. Zara felt her chest tighten. You think I'd betray you like that? After everything? Hyunwoo looked away. Someone used your credentials. Until we know who, I can't protect you. His words cut deeper than any accusation. Zara stared at him, unable to breathe. So that's it? You'll let them destroy me? When he didn't answer, she walked out, this time for good. That night, rain poured over Seoul like the sky itself was mourning. Zara packed her things from the dorm quietly. Every corner of the room felt like a memory, their laughter, their arguments, their stolen glances that meant more than words. As she zipped her bag, she found something under the desk, a flash drive wrapped in plain white paper. On it was written, for you, if you ever doubt yourself. Her breath caught. It was Hyunwoo's handwriting. She plugged it into her laptop, heart pounding. A series of surveillance clips appeared on the screen. One of them showed Minju entering Hyunwoo's office late at night, using Zara's ID card. Her hands shook. There it was, proof. Minju had framed her. But the last clip froze her blood. Minju wasn't alone. She was meeting a man, the company's vice director, whispering about getting rid of Zara permanently if she became a problem. Zara grabbed her coat and ran out into the storm. Minju's apartment was across the river, modern, cold, like its owner. Zara burst through the door, soaked to the bone. Minju turned, surprised for only a second before smiling. So, you found out, Minju said coolly. Took you long enough. Zara's voice cracked. Why are you doing this? What did I ever do to you? You existed, Minju replied. You came into his life, into my company, and suddenly he stopped seeing me. Everything that was supposed to be mine, you took it. Zara stepped closer, trembling with anger. He chose me because I never lied to him. Because I worked for everything I have. Minju laughed bitterly. You really think he'll love you after this? The police will be here soon. And when they find that data drive in your locker. Zara didn't let her finish. She grabbed Minju's wrist. You set me up, but I'm not going down alone. They struggled, papers flying, glass shattering. Minju reached for a letter opener, but before she could strike, the door burst open. Hyun-woo stood there, rain dripping from his coat, eyes wide. Enough. Minju froze. The letter opener slipped from her hand. Hyun-woo stepped forward, his voice low. It's over, Minju. I saw the footage. Her expression twisted in horror. You followed me? I trusted you once, Hyun-woo said, his voice breaking. And that was my biggest mistake. Minju collapsed into the chair, silent as security guards entered and escorted her out. For a long moment, only the sound of the rain filled the room. Zara turned away. You didn't believe me, she said quietly. You let me walk out like I meant nothing. Hyun-woo stepped closer, his voice trembling. I was afraid, Zara. I've lost too many people. I thought pushing you away would protect you. She looked up at him, tears glistening in her eyes. And what about me? Who protected me? He reached for her hand, but she didn't move. I'm sorry, he whispered. I should have trusted you. Please, don't go. For the first time, Zara saw the fear in his eyes, the same fear she had lived with all along. Slowly, she let him pull her into his arms. The storm outside began to fade. Weeks passed. The company cleared Zara's name. Minju's confession spread across the media like wildfire. And Hyun-woo, for the first time, stepped down from his father's shadow. He built a new branch of the company, one focused on fairness and integrity, and offered Zara the position of lead strategist. At first, she refused. But when he showed up at her doorstep with 2 coffees and that same nervous smile she'd fallen for, she couldn't help but laugh. I thought you'd given up, she said. Never, he replied. Not on you. This time, when he kissed her, it wasn't stolen or desperate. It was real. The kind of love that survives storms and scandals. Maybe love isn't about how it begins, but how it survives everything trying to end it.